Greetings, microscopists. This is Eric Miller from Instructinate, and I've just returned from M&M 2026 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I saw and heard many things. I'm going to start off this video talking about some of the super cool new things that I saw there. Then I will give you a rundown on the conference itself and its attendance. Then we'll talk about the manufacturers that were there and what sort of instruments were on display. And then I'll tell you about some industry things that were happening. So what hot new things did I see at M&M this year? I'm going to start off with two different things that work together, but that I think have some potential, and I want more people to hear about it. A company called Turbo TEM out of Dublin, Ireland thought it would be a cool idea to make TEM grids huge. Those 3mm little tiny things are just too small to deal with, especially if you want to image a whole section of a mouse brain. So they removed the pole pieces from an existing TEM and replaced it with their own that now is able to handle 100mm grids. Now, these grids come in multiple layouts and configurations, but the point is that this allows the user to set up a huge automated data collection inside the TEM. Instead of getting a quarter of one mouse brain section on a 3mm grid, you can put sections of an entire mouse brain onto a single sample holder and image the whole thing. I'm sure you're wondering how a FormVar film could possibly survive being suspended across a 100mm empty hole, and that is where this other company, Luxel, comes in. I have an interview with Luxel coming out, and it's very fascinating, but the short of it is that they make films that are about 70 nanometers thick, electron transparent, and 5 times stronger than FormVar. They had a 5-inch film that I poked with a needle, and it didn't tear apart or explode like FormVar would. Anyway, both of these technologies were really fascinating, and I hope that more people can hear about them and come up with new, useful applications for them. The other really big thing that I thought people needed to hear about has to do with some new low vacuum pumps I saw. You say low vacuum pumps? We've already got oil rotary pumps and scroll pumps. What other kind of pumps would you need? Well, what if you needed an oilless low vacuum pump that had minimum vibration and ran at only 45 decibels? And to top it off, has a 6-year maintenance cycle. Well, if you're interested in something like that, Kashiyama has exactly what you're looking for. I did also hear at the show that at least one of the major microscope manufacturers is already using this pump for high-resolution microscopes due to its extremely low vibration and noise. I have a feeling that once the word gets out about this line of pumps called NeoDry, others are going to start jumping on board as well. I have an interview with them, Kashiyama that is. I have no idea how they work or why they're so quiet. I just never thought I could get so excited about a vacuum pump. Something else very cool I saw was a booth called 3D Molecular Designs, and they had 3D printed molecular designs. Some of them were static, some of them were movable or posable, and a number of them had a QR code that went along with them, and when scanned, would activate some augmented reality that would interact with your real 3D model. It was very cool, great for education, and might be a great gift for yourself or some super nerd you know. I love the fully articulated bacteriophage. It was terribly cool. I was unable to get an interview with these guys due to time constraints, but I definitely wanted to mention them and their cool stuff to you guys here. There were a number of other cool things that happened at the show, like some military-grade handheld Raman detectors, compressed sensing, AI instrument management, upgraded parts for your Vitrabot, and much more. So make sure to subscribe and catch all of that content coming soon. So the show itself was a bit weird. Most of the vendors agreed with me on this. Normally, the show floor is very busy on Monday, then less and less busy the rest of the week until things shut down on Thursday afternoon. This year was different. Monday and Tuesday were very quiet, and then Wednesday, it was suddenly very busy. So there was a lot of speculation about what was going on. I don't know. I don't have the attendance numbers myself, but there were some theories, none of which I felt really captured what was actually happening. As for the lectures and whatnot, there were some talks that had some people standing in the halls trying to listen, so that's great. The reality is that in-person shows, conferences, and such like are all in decline and have been the last 15 to 20 years. The ease of communication via the internet is certainly one of the reasons for it, but I think it is unfortunate that few people come to these sorts of things. It is a great place to network and learn new things about stuff you never would have heard of otherwise, like a 100mm TEM grid. M&M also used to be a great place to learn about new instruments and to have a sit-down demonstration on one. However, this year, the trend continued of more manufacturers expecting you to fly to a conference to attend a Zoom meeting with their microscopes. Now, given that bringing the electron microscopes to the show floor is super expensive, and that the interest on the show floor seemed to be more muted year after year, I have a hard time criticizing them too much, but it still sucks. For example, my lab is shopping for a TEM, and before we made a purchase, we wanted our TEM person to sit down at both of the models we're looking at. What do you know? They were both at M&M, so we were able to make some quick work of that. Could we do the same thing next year? Who knows? My super cool new electron microscope themed merch was quite popular. Check out the merch page at Instructinate.com to see about joining the Grid Gang, the Stub Club, or being in the Fib Crib. So as for what all was at the show, here is what we had. Hitachi by far had the most instruments on the floor. In their own booth, they had an Hitachi HT7800-2, their newest model of TEM. They also had an SU8600 ultra-high-resolution cold-sourced instrument and an SU3900 and SU3900 Plus. These are the ultra-large SEMs with a tungsten and Schottky column, respectively. They also had their ion mill there, ready for demos. Hitachi also had an HT7800 in the AMT booth, an SU5000 Schottky SEM in the Bruker booth, and a FlexSem compact SEM in the Oxford booth. There were also 3 TM4000 Plus tabletop SEMs at various booths around the floor, so it was a lot of Hitachi on the floor. The next would be JEOL. They only had instruments in their booth, which consisted of the 120i TEM, the IT810 Ultra High Resolution Schottky SEM, the IT710 Schottky SEM, and a 7000 Plus tabletop. Zeiss had no instruments in their booth, but did have a Sigma 300 VP in the Oxford booth. Tescan had no instruments. Thermo Fisher had no instruments. However, Chinese newcomer SICTEC did have an SEM 3300 in their booth. This is their full-size tungsten system with stage bias decel and a through-the-lens detector. I have some interesting info on SICTEC a bit later, so stay tuned. As for tabletop SEMs, EM Crafts were there with a new version of the Cube that weighs less than 60 pounds. I have a video on it coming soon also. Nanoscience Instruments, of course, had 2 Phenoms in their booth. In the JH Technologies booth, COSEM had a tabletop, and I totally forget which model it was. It was probably the EM40, and the CX300, which is a smallish tungsten SEM. As for general industry happenings, there were a few things. The biggest is the acquisition of Tescan by Shimadzu. This could be a very positive thing for Tescan, or a huge train wreck for Shimadzu. I have no idea, and I'm very interested in seeing what develops over the next few years. XEI was recently purchased by some new owners, one of whom I have an interview with, so that will be interesting to see what will happen there also. By coincidence, both XEI and IBSS were showing off a plasma cleaner that has an attachment like a TEM sample rod. Stick it straight into the TEM to clean the area around the pull piece. Now, when SICTEC came into the US market about a year and a half ago, this posed some interesting questions. I predicted that it was possible it could go very well for them if their instruments worked well and were supported properly. Well, I have a small update that I can give you. Now, I did hear this info from multiple sources and was also given permission to share some of it. Entering into a new market is extremely difficult in this field, yet SICTEC has made some sales, and as in more than one this past year, which is not too bad to start. I'm also told by some folks at JH Technologies that SICTEC has been very good to work with and that they are very responsive and helpful when it comes to maintenance and repair issues. The other thing that I learned, which may interest all of you, is that SICTEC microscopes come with a 5-year warranty. The standard in the industry is 1 year. Also, get ready to see a lot more models from SICK-TECH. They started off with their tungsten systems, but quickly started offering their Schottky models also. Their dual beam fib will be available soon, and their 120 kilovolt Schottky TM is also planned for release here in the US. I don't know if it will, but SICK-TECH has the potential to shake things up in the industry in the US and in Europe. That's all I've got for now. If you're looking to purchase an electron microscope, be sure to check out the guides page at Instructinate.com. There you will find all the specs of all the models of instruments currently available here in North America. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around the lab.